Hi, Norma.
Hey Dana, how are you? It's so nice
I'm
to
well.
see you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. I'm looking forward to this.
Awesome. I'm here with Norma Powers, the owner of Mind Body Vitality. And why don't you tell everyone what that is?
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, how long do we have? So, no, I mean, I'll start from where I developed Mind Body Vitality, spending 33 years in pharma. I was always interested in wellness. I was always interested in better health and taking care of myself and exercising and all that and it really, as I was in that pharma, and I'll just say, like, towards the end, I called it my soul crushing corporate life, because to me it was really soul crushing, and I knew that there was a path for me that I wanted to work towards.
Right.
Like, I was going through the motion, I was working, I was doing what I needed to do, but there was a piece of me that's like, it's not resonating with me. What resonates with me is health, wellness, empowering women, empowering people to live a better lifestyle. So I was always on that very much holistic path. And after I retired, after 33 years of pharma, I turned to my husband and I said, this is the time that I want to now do what I am called to do. And I thought a lot about the title, and Mind Body Vitality just came to me because it really speaks to everything that I'm interested in and that I'm all about.
I love that. And I was thinking before we started today, just thinking about you because we used to work together at Celgene in the compliance department. And you always were like very, not just sort of physically fit, but like your energy was always good and you always were kind to everyone. And you didn't
Oh,
get
thank you.
into some of the drama that, would naturally occur even when we were stressed out. And you and I always had a good relationship. But you just always were someone who you are very holistic in your approach to taking care of yourself and how you presented yourself in the world and just how you interacted with people. So I think wellness is like, if there was a person who personified loving wellness, it's definitely you. And when I saw that you had started posting on LinkedIn about your new company, I was like, that's so awesome that she's doing that. I know you'd posted, that you were Reiki certified. And I was just like, I love that. I love that for her. She did her work in the trenches in her corporate career. And then she just was able to like do a passion project, which I think a lot of us would
Yeah.
like to do.
And I had started my holistic path, like you mentioned, with the Reiki, um, back in 19, so my son was born 97, so 96. So right before, well, I was actually pregnant with him. And that kind of started my path. And, it's so necessary when it not only, newly married, now having a child, and I really needed to take care of myself mentally, physically. And so I started on that Reiki path, and then I went into yoga. So it really, like, it was foundational for me. Like, I started stacking everything that I wanted to do. And I always wanted to go into health coaching and get my certification, but I couldn't do it with the job that I had. It was just
Right.
not feasible.
Right.
So, I created that 5-year plan. I, looked to see when I wanted to retire, or approximately. And then I backed it up for 5 years and said, okay, what do I need to do within these 5 years to get to the place where when I do retire, I will have all the tools in my suitcase or my briefcase to be able to now, start a business.
For sure. I love that.
And then, COVID hit, so that, made it easy to say, okay, well, I'm done. And
Right.
I started that journey.
No, that's fantastic. And you mentioned your sons. How old are they?
So Josh is 28 and lives in Germany, and
Wow.
Jeremy is 24. He'll be 25 in May and lives in Utah.
That's
So, and I'm
awesome.
in the middle in Pennsylvania. So,
There you go.
5 hours to get to Utah, and 7 hours to get to Germany.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, yeah. But
And
we
how did
FaceTime
you,
all the time, which is great.
right? And how did you approach parenting them in the 90s and early 2000s when, maybe it's not like the healthiest time in terms of there's the rise of electronics and also junk food, and what was your approach to parenting them?
Yeah. Well, interestingly, you should ask because I don't cook. My husband does all the cooking. So even being like in the health space, he cooks very well and, takes into consideration things that I will eat and won't eat. But I did not cook. And when my son was born, I said, I am not going to buy Gerber, foods. I am not going to buy like all these jar things. And I made all the food for the kids, for both kids. It was like you can just buy potatoes and boil it and carrots and I didn't add all those preservatives and sugar and all of that stuff. So that's how like I started. And then no, there weren't electronics. Um, but there was the TV, so they had a lot of TV time when I was busy working. Um, and sports, you know, back then, sports I Josh did at one time. He was doing cross country, lacrosse, karate, and there was something else that he was doing, soccer, like
Uh,
four sports. And it was just like, okay. And this was like, he was probably in first grade, and we're like, okay, we have to like tailor that down and focus on what he excels at. But yeah, it was a different stage of
right?
parenting back then.
For sure, for sure. That's wild.
Yeah.
Is there anything you miss about your corporate life, like before you got into this?
I miss the friendships. I have to say, like all of the jobs that I had, I created such wonderful friends in those jobs. Um, I mean, I've got a friend from my first job at Sandoz when I first started out, which is now Novartis. But she's like one of my best friends, and my kids call her Aunt Laura,
Oh,
So that's one thing that I miss about the corporate life. And especially I think when we were at Celgene, there was a lot of friendships that developed there. It was a small company, and um, it was such a feel good company. Like I miss a lot of the people there, but I don't miss
the hours, the
the
travel, the
drama.
drama.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, the commute. I,
Yeah,
3 hours a day, an hour and a half
right,
each way, and that's without traffic. So,
right.
but interestingly, that's where I got to spend the time to listen to Wayne Dyer, uh, Gabby Bernstein, like all of these people, Mel Robbins, and, really started listening to all of them and listening to podcasts and all of those things because they honestly helped me get through my day. It was that mindset that they provided for me as I went into my day, like, okay, just breathe. You can do this.
I love that.
So the commute was good in some ways, but yeah,
Right.
three hours a day on top of a 8 or 9 hour day is a long
Yeah.
day.
Mine was very similar because I was living in Manhattan first and then in Hoboken when I was working at Celgene. And it was the reverse commute, so it was better than, going into New York in the morning and leaving. But it was still, it was a lot. And there were a lot of
Yeah,
weekends when I would leave my car at the office in Summit and just take the train home because, there was no way to
I
like drive
remember
home
that.
on a Friday. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because you
Yeah.
used to go in with Joe, right? Sometimes like
Yeah.
you guys would commute together or yeah.
Yeah. Joe Camardo, who, yeah, I just messaged with.
Yeah.
I'll have to ask him if he wants to come on the podcast.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I still keep in touch with him and Mohammed, so they're great.
But that's awesome. But yeah, we had such a good group, and I remember going in your office a lot, and I remember some of the advice you gave me, and it was really good advice. And it was funny when we talked the other day, we set up a time to chat about you doing the podcast, and you called me and you came up on my caller ID, and I was like, "Oh, hey, Norma," and you were like, "How did you know it was me?" I was like, "You're still in my phone." And it was like no time passed. So I love
Yeah.
those friendships where you don't see each other for years and you get together and it's just like, oh hi, how are you?
Yeah. No, it's and that's the definition of friendship, right? Like
Right.
years can go by and I actually just got in touch with someone that I was went to high school with, and she ended up leaving sophomore year of high school. And we kept in touch through college, and then she got married and we lost touch. I was looking for her on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, could not find her. And then I had a box in my office that said Norma's stuff. And I was cleaning my office and I was like, oh, let me look through that. And I found her wedding invitation. So now I had her last name and I looked her up and I was able to find like her husband, and then her children were on LinkedIn. So I messaged her children. Long story short, after I don't know, 20, 30 years, we talked and it was like no time passed. And it was
Oh,
just so nice to just, catch up like that.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So talk about the internet, it really helps to connect people and
For
keep them
sure.
connected, which is a good thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that is really the main reason that I decided to start the podcast is I miss a lot of people that I used to see on a daily basis, and I'm mostly remote, so I don't see people all the time. And I was like,
Yeah.
this would be a really good way for me to catch up with people, honestly. And like, if it can
Yeah.
provide some career guidance for someone else or some motivation to, make a change like you did, and I think that's great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm so glad you did that. And it's wonderful to connect with people.
Yeah, it is. So, say you're talking to a younger audience who says, I love that idea of, you go to college, you get married, you have your kids, you do your job, your 9 to 5 job, you build your career, but then with the ultimate goal of pursuing, wellness or coaching or whatever it is, that people want to do. But you want to get that sort of, you want your 401k career and, all that normal kind of adult experience. What advice would you give someone who wanted to sort of follow that traditional path, but then maybe branch into something more creative?
I would honestly suggest, start dipping your toes. Have that corporate career, but on the side, maybe spend a couple of hours doing what resonates with you, what you're passionate about. Um, and it could be a hobby because it really helps to to have that other thing that you can lean on, something that makes you happy, something that resonates with you. Like I said, I was doing the Reiki while I was in corporate, and that helped me to kind of start paving the path because I enjoyed it. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I need to explore a little bit more of that. So I would just say start dipping your toes, have that career, build your 401k, build your portfolio, build your connections. And then on the side, couple of hours a week, just start dipping your toes in whatever it is that you're passionate about. That, maybe it's something that you've always wanted to do, but never had the opportunity to do it. Start maybe, taking an evening course, community college, and just learning about what it is that you may be interested in.
I love
And
that.
and I've noticed, I mean, so many people that I've spoken to, some are lawyers and ended up being, some are doctors and have left their profession and are, sole entrepreneurs now, just
Right.
doing their thing that they liked, but it made the transition easier because they had the foundation of being able to fall back on, the salary that they had, the savings, the 401k
Right.
and things like that. So I wouldn't suggest coming out of school and trying to start your own business. Um, that's hard. And I've seen
Yeah.
a lot of people do that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's a great point about the network because you had such a broad business network from your life and your career. And then, like I said, when you started your, your wellness practice, mind body vitality, like I saw that when you started posting it on LinkedIn. And so you have this sort of built-in audience, right? Like you don't have to pay for people to target ads to. I mean, maybe you also do, but you have that built-in network of people that know you, that know your integrity, and they've interacted with you. So, you see something like that and you're like, "Oh, that's great that she's doing that." And because I know her, I know that she practices what she preach and she really lives this lifestyle, and like it's an easy sell.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's about building the trust as well. And
Of
like
course.
you said, I think a lot of people, know me, know my work ethic, my integrity. So hopefully when I do post something that it resonates with them. And um, I'm trying to get most of my audience right now more on LinkedIn because I am focusing on women that are I've always been into like empowering women to live their best life. And right now, what I'm doing is I just created a course called the Purposeful Retirement Blueprint, which is women that are looking to retire within maybe, the next 6 months or so
Oh wow.
and feel uncertain about it. You know, they're coming from a career in whatever industry where they had an identity. They identify themselves by their title. I was VP of whatever, where
Right.
then once you retire, you're no longer that VP. So who are you without that title? And helping them build that identity for themselves, redefine who they are. So that's why I think LinkedIn is just a much better platform because that's where the professional people are that are looking, towards that retirement.
Right. That's so valuable. And you're right, it is such a big part of our identities, our title, the company we work for, for us in pharma, especially when we were at Celgene, like we were curing cancer. Like it's hard not to feel good about yourself when you're part of an organization like that. And then
Yeah.
you take that away, you take away the office friends and the lunches and the busy schedule that sort of keeps your mind off other things. And I could imagine that that would be kind of a crushing void for some people to look into.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, you wake up on day one of retirement, it's like, oh, I don't have 100 emails to go through. I don't have meetings. I don't have to commute for, the next hour. What am I going to do today? Well,
Right.
I could catch up on Netflix, right? But that's where you don't want to fall into that hole. And the purposeful retirement is not about finding another job. It's about identifying who you are and having a lifestyle that identifies with that. It could be volunteering. It could be, like me, just finding that passion that you had at one time and now being able to execute on it. But it's just kind of redesigning your lifestyle
Yeah.
to match, your post-retirement dreams.
It's so great that you kind of created this framework for that because we're so used to, our whole lives we think about planning for retirement and there's commercials and, seminars and courses, but it's all around money and just like having your nest egg and diversifying your portfolio and all that kind of stuff, but very few people actually talk about what's it going to feel like when you actually get there, and what are you going to do with your time, and how are you going to think about who you are as a person now that you are a retiree. And my grandmother always used to talk about, she was a very hardworking housewife for my grandfather, who was a traveling salesperson who ended up doing very well in his company. But, you know, at that time they didn't have business dinners at restaurants. So like if he had a business dinner, she would host it and she would cook and polish the silver. And when he traveled every week,
Yep.
she would unload his suitcase, wash his clothes, iron them, put them back in. So she was very much a part of his career. But then as she started to see him and all the other men of that generation retire, and she was comparing notes with her friends, she said all the husbands would hang around the house all day and like try to tell their wife how to load the dishwasher. And they were like, this is my domain. I know how to do this. I know you don't have anything
Yeah.
to do, but like go find something to do because I already know how to do this stuff. And they needed someone to manage because they didn't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. So it's interesting. when I went on LinkedIn to kind of see what the layout was for people retiring, I did a search for retirement, and everything that came up had to do with finances
Yes.
because that's all, to the point that you just made, that's what people were concerned about were your financial portfolio. And so I started a group on LinkedIn called the Purposeful Retirement. There was nothing having to do with kind of like that sort of um, title, something
Right.
about living your purpose post-retirement. Everything was financial.
Right.
So,
That's
yeah,
incredible. I
but
mean, great
it's,
idea that you had, and great untapped market that everyone should be thinking about as much as how much money you're going to have. What are you going to think about? What are you going to do? How are you going to feel? Like that should be just as important, because otherwise you get there and you like hit the wall and you're like, "Oh man, I didn't plan for this at all." Like what? Because we just think of retirement as like heaven almost, right? Where like there's no responsibilities and we're just like traveling, but for the most part, people are going to still like wake up in their bed every day.
yeah, yeah. And what do you have to look forward to? You
Right.
need something to look forward to.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so and this was all part of my journey. So I last year, it's actually coming up on a year anniversary, I started a magazine with a friend of mine called Life Mastery Magazine. And it was all about, empowering women to live their best lives. And every topic was themed. And then come October, it kind of like hit me that I need to do more. I need to have more of an impact. So I broke off from the magazine, and the co-founder, Sarah, is still managing that. So, check out Life Mastery Magazine. She does an amazing job carrying that forward. But I still wanted to empower women. And I looked at my story and how I got to where I am. And it was all about that passion that I had, that mind body vitality connection, that I wanted to help other women find their purpose and find their passion and what that looked like after retirement. So it's all like, my journey has just led itself. I never had, except for like having built my 5-year plan that I knew I wanted to retire within 5 years and what I was thinking about. I went into health coaching, then I went into life coaching, then I did the magazine. I did life coaching for the LA Times for a year and realized that I really, really enjoyed that. And I made, some great friends over there. And then, after that, I started the magazine, and now I'm doing the Purposeful Retirement.
That's
So,
great. That's great.
yeah.
And you also
So
have a blog, The Black Dot.
I have the black dot, which is a little different than it's all about um, uh, the foundation of the black dot. How it came about was my son in Germany decided he wanted to do an Ironman. And he was a cross country, he played lacrosse and was a cross country runner, but that was the extent of it. He was not, I think he did the Philly Marathon in high school, but he was not a swimmer. He's not a biker. And, running was just something that he did in high school. So he decided to do the Ironman. So towards, when he's getting ready to buy his uniform, I said to him, I said, Josh, I'd like to buy you your uniform. He goes, Mom, he goes, what I would prefer is um, if I finish the Ironman, or when I finish the Ironman, he said, when I finish the Ironman, because it's all that mindset, right? When I finish the Ironman, which I never thought he would, but anyway, so he did. But so he goes, when I finish the Ironman, I'd like to get a tattoo. And I go, a tattoo? I go, I don't understand. He goes, well, if you look at the Ironman symbol, the M has a little dot above it. And he goes, I just want to get the dot. And I go, okay, but why? He goes, because I want it to be a constant reminder that with hard work and determination and the right mindset, you can accomplish anything. And I'm like, Josh, I go, I love that. And I've never been like, you know, my kids I have never been like, I want to get a tattoo, but it was always like, you're not getting a tattoo, don't even think about it.
Right.
So I said to him, I said, Josh, I said, I absolutely love that. And when you finish the Iron Man, I will get a tattoo with you.
Oh my gosh, that's so
So,
cool.
so that's why I started blogging the Black Dot, because it's motivation, inspiration, determination. And it's that foundation of the black dot. And with that right mindset, you can accomplish anything. So it's more of like, little tips. It's a 2 to 3 minute read because I know people don't have the time to spend, a half hour reading an
Right.
article or something. So it's just I post every 2 weeks, and they're just quick little snippets of, different things to motivate or inspire people. So
Great.
that's they can find that on LinkedIn as well as Substack.
Awesome. Yeah, and I just was
Yeah.
reading your article on gratitude, which I thought was really excellent and something that seems very basic, but it's so powerful, and a lot of us still struggle with it because I think we're in our society, there's so much comparison, and especially with social media, and we're
Yeah.
comparing ourselves to what we thought we would be doing at this point in our lives when we were 20, and we're comparing ourselves to other people around us, and it is so important just to sit back and say, you know what? I've got a roof over my head. I've got all these blessings. I have a job. I have family and friends who love me. And, you know,
Yeah.
it's so powerful.
And just expressing gratitude just totally changes your mindset and your perspective on everything.
Right. Of
So
course.
it's, you can build on that. And it's called the fine grain, gratitude, because it is the smallest thing. I'm thankful that I've got this glass of water in front of me because a lot of people don't have water. Well, it's not water,
Right.
it's a little energy drink, but um, healthy energy, not. um,
With
but
a monster.
yeah, yeah, no, it's absolutely true. So yeah, so the black dot was just all based on, my son doing the Iron Man that just kind of evolved into a blog.
That's really cool. So, in your years working with women over the years, various coaching roles and just, advice that you've shared with girlfriends, what what are some of the biggest things that you see women dealing with, and what is your advice for them?
Honestly, and this was again the reason why I went into like the purposeful retirement is, and I was even talking to someone at a party just recently. It was a man, and he's going to be retiring, and he's like, I just don't even know what I'm. And this was before the purposeful retirement. He's like, I don't know what I'm going to do when I retire. A lot of women are retiring. Well, a lot of people, I shouldn't just say women, are retiring earlier, than 65. So they're still young and they still have a lot of vitality in them, and they don't know what they're going to do next. And a lot of people slash women are continuing to work, though they don't have to, because they're scared of retirement, and they're
Right.
scared of what they're going to do. So I've had, multiple discussions with people and women about what that looks like. Um, and I'll just go back and just say, start dipping your toes. Start dipping your toes into something that, maybe you liked art when you were young, but you were never able to do it. I had a conversation with a girlfriend recently out to dinner, and same thing, talking about retirement. And I said, but you've always wanted to play the piano. And it's like, yeah, I can, start looking into playing the piano, taking piano lessons.
Right.
So it's not, like I said, it's not another career, but it's, finding what you're passionate about, what you're good at, what fueled you when you were younger that you had to let go of because you started working. Go back to that.
Right. And what would you say for people who are afraid that that window has closed? Like someone who loves to dance, but says, I haven't danced in 30 years. I don't even know how I would get back into it. What would you say to someone like that?
That window's never closed. That window's never. And I'll even say when I did my yoga certification, I was probably the oldest one in the class.
That's
And
awesome.
I was even older than the teacher. And I kept saying, like, I feel like I've missed the mark. I feel like I should have done this when I was younger. But now looking back, and I remember having that conversation. One of the teachers drove me home one day, and I remember having that conversation with her. And she's like, "You're never too old. You're never too old."
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, look at these. I saw my son in Utah is into rock climbing. And there was like an elderly woman that was doing rock climbing. Like, you're never too old. He goes to a rock gym and there's people of different ages. There's, kids that are 3 years old all the way to I did the rock climbing and don't tell anyone, but I'm 60, and I went last year with my son and it was fun. I had never done it before.
That's so
So
cool.
you're never too old. And that's a mind shift.
Right.
Change that story you're telling yourself.
Right. That's so great to hear. And I remember Martha Stewart did a master class and she said she didn't start her first company till she was 50. And it's like, oh wow, you have so much time. We all have so much time
Yeah,
to accomplish something in our lives. And I
yeah.
think that's great.
I mean, I started Mind Body Vitality. I was 55.
That's awesome. And you love it. Do you love it?
Oh, I do love it. I do love it. I love seeing the transformation. I love, seeing the insight that people have, when we're in a conversation or a coaching call and all of a sudden they're like, oh, oh, yeah. Right. And it's all a matter of just asking the right questions to get them thinking. So
That's
I do like it. I do enjoy it.
yeah, I can imagine it would be really incredible to spark those aha moments in people. That must feel really good.
Yeah. But it's not me telling them, it's them coming up with the solution. It's all about asking the right questions to get them thinking and them having that aha moment or that insight. All of a sudden they're like, yeah, you're right.
That's great. I
Yeah.
love
It's fun. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. And I'm one of those people that when it's no longer fun, when I'm no longer enjoying it, then you kind of have to evaluate what it is that you're not enjoying and make that shift so that you are enjoying what you're doing. And especially what I'm doing now, I'm in charge of my own schedule. If I want to go on vacation tomorrow, I can change my calendar around. I can do my blog post from anywhere.
right.
Yeah,
That's incredible. It in some ways we are in such an amazing time where we have the luxury of doing so many things.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Okay, so any parting words of advice to people? Anything you're looking forward to in 2025?
So I'm looking forward to launching my Purposeful Retirement. Hopefully next month that'll happen. I'm putting the final touches on it. Um, and I'm going to launch like a beta to because I want to make sure that it's working for people.
Right,
It's a blueprint. We're going to talk. It's 5 weeks long. We're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about what that passion was. We're going to talk about looking to see what the avenues are for that passion. What can you do? You like gardening. Well, you don't necessarily have to like working as a gardener, there's so many other opportunities. You can even write a book, right? Um, and then the fourth week is executing. And then the fifth week, we come back together to see, how's it going? Do we need to shift? Is there anything to talk about? So that's the foundation of the blueprint. And I'm doing the beta so that we can test it. I want to test my beta. And then after that, it's going to be a lot of fun because we're going to gamify it. So there's going to be a lot of like bells and whistles.
Of
honestly, per
course.
se. Like, yeah, so like you finish a course, you get like applause, and it's a fun platform that I'm building it on. And so the beta is gonna hopefully launch in March is the time frame that I'm looking at. And on top of that, I'm trying to build my audience, trying to post about it. So that's what I'm looking forward to in 2025.
That's so
So where
great.
can people find me? So I'm working on my website. There's a lot of areas that aren't um, working yet, but it's mindbodyvitality.net. You can reach me at hello@mindbodyvitality.net, and you'll start seeing more and more on the website as I'm learning technology. So I'm doing all this on my own, and doing a lot of chats with the help desk, but they've been wonderful, and so my website will be up and running soon.
Good for you. And great that you're
Yeah,
just putting content out there because that's what they say, get your minimum viable product out there. Just start running with it and then improve it as you go along. I think
yeah.
I I heard a great
Well, that was the
speech.
name of the course that I just took, was the MVP, minimal viable
Yes,
product,
yes,
because it's all about just putting something out there and then iterating it, to greatness, working from like a paper airplane to the jet plane.
yes. Yeah, I heard a
So
great speech about just putting yourself out there, especially for women. Like, it's a little bit easier for men for whatever reason to just put themselves out there and start creating. And this was from the perspective of someone who is in the entertainment industry, so like in films and television, um, and saying, women have a tendency to only want to send something out when it's perfect. And she
yeah.
said, just do something and put it out there and see if anyone likes it, and then revise it, and then someone will pick it up, and then learn from that. And then the next thing you do, maybe you'll have some lessons learned and you'll tweak it a little bit, but like just put content out there.
But is anything ever perfect?
Nothing. Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
But yeah, but there are so many people that I think hold off on ever putting themselves out there in a creative way because they don't have that quote unquote perfection. But to your point, it doesn't exist. So just do it. You never
Yeah, and
know.
it's about being vulnerable too,
Yes, which is difficult.
putting your and not being afraid to put yourself out there. Yeah,
Absolutely.
so mindbodyvitality.net. You can also
Awesome.
the black dot, you can access it from there as well, also on LinkedIn.
Perfect.
And
And Norma Powers on LinkedIn if they want to connect with you.
yep,
Amazing.
yeah.
Well, Norma, thank you
Yes.
so much for being with me. I really appreciate it. And it's been so nice to get to see your face and catch up with you.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad you reached out, and I'm so happy to have done this with you. So wishing
Oh,
you all the
cool.
best in your podcast too. I look forward
Thank you.
to hearing more of your podcasts.
Thank you so much. And I will be looking for your beta in the next couple months.
Sounds good. All right, take care.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Bye.